What's up? What's up? What's going on, faithful? It is your boy Niner Sickness with the Niner Sickness Report. We have a great live today. We have a special guest that I'm looking forward to introducing in a few minutes. I just want to welcome all the viewers. David, Big Stinker, Kathy, how are you guys doing today? Good to see you. Good to see you. We are in for a treat today. We'll have a very special guest, someone that I've been watching, somebody that I've been watching his videos. I am very intrigued by what he has to say when he speaks. He's a very intelligent young man, and he loves the 49ers, and he's repping the 49ers red and gold. So prepare yourself, get ready to enjoy this live today with me as I bring in my guest, and you'll be able to say hello and get to know Jason Aponte. Jason, how you doing? Welcome.
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for having me. This is exciting to be on different platforms. And as always, I'm honored that you asked me to be on here, man.
The pleasure is mine, brother. The pleasure is mine. Real quick, those that are watching me on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, welcome as you guys are coming in. Welcome to the show. Jason, man, like I said, I've been watching you on here, and I love what you have to say. I love how you help creators that are young and not necessarily young, but that are growing their YouTube channel, like myself. And I appreciate that you accepted my invite for my show, man. I truly appreciate it.
No problem. I everybody starts somewhere. Everybody would want that sort of push from people that they look up to, and it happens to me all the time on my YouTube channel. I'm very surprised at who accepts invites and things like that. And I always want to be accessible to anybody who is trying to get into this, because I would want people to pay it forward the same exact way. So again, honored that you would ask me to be on here. Honored that you actually would want me on here more than anything.
Oh, stop. You're being modest, bro. You're awesome, bro. I appreciate you. Let me just acknowledge everybody coming in. Kathy, how you doing? John, welcome. Lucky, what's up, Lucky? Tom, how you doing? Josh Blackwood's in the house. Roberto Hastings in the house. Thomas Earl, what's up, brother? Corey Davis. Mike, how you doing? Welcome. So, as we go forward, Jason, let me ask you, who introduced you or who brought you to liking the 49ers? How did you become a Niner fan?
It's a question that I get all the time, especially being a New York person. You know, my father went to Indiana University at the same time that Joe Montana went to Notre Dame. And my father described Joe Montana as bigger than Jesus. And if you know how religious Indiana is, that's no small statement. So my father basically followed Joe Montana over to the 49ers. There's pictures of me as a child running around in an oversized 49ers jersey. And it just stuck with me. And I've been, it's easy to, again, I was born in 84. Okay. So it's easy to look at somebody who is a 49ers fan, Yankees fan, and say, oh, well, they're front runners. Well, my father chose the guy that he saw with his own eyes, who was in the Rudy movie, by the way. Joe Montana was the quarterback during Rudy, if anybody doesn't know that. And, being with the Yankees. But my father's from the Bronx. And that's just how it came to be. When you're from the Bronx, the Yankees are a lifestyle, and that's not something you bandwagon onto. But with the 49ers, it was a lot harder to definitely explain, especially when you're knee deep in Giants and Jets country, which is exactly where I'm at right now. But and I stuck with the 49ers the whole way. And I've been that lone guy in classrooms with 49ers jerseys. And for a long time, there was really no discussion about whether your team was better than my team. I used to walk in and say, who do you like? Who do you like? Sorry, you really can't really talk to me. It was only the Cowboys fans who had grafted onto their success at that time that were able to even have a discussion with me because of how it was. But it's basically how it happened.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. It's funny how you're from the Bronx. I can imagine the Giants fans, the Jets, all that, and being a Niner fan uh, there, how interesting that would be. Especially you're born in '84, so that like that game with the Garcia and the Niners against the Giants, where the Niners messed up that field goal, and or it was a pass, and they didn't call it, and we were able to move on. The Giants didn't, and we came back and beat the Giants. So I can imagine how it was there in New York. Or
I got sent to the principal's office for that game. So
really,
so in my school, I don't know how it works, with schools across the country. My school was first period was first, and then you had homeroom. So I joined in during first period, and I showed up 2 minutes late to make sure that my presence was known. And I walked in holding up my Jeff Garcia jersey at the time. And
okay,
the teacher told me to settle down. And I was talking to the Giants fans, and I wouldn't settle down. And they sent me to the principal's office. So, that's how deep it goes. And those are the sort of discussions that you have with Giants fans over here because they're not nice about it. And obviously, I had to eat crow later on down the line. I don't want to bring up bad feelings.
yeah.
But that time and those games that I'm alluding to wasn't a fun time to be over here. So I'm glad that I got to take my victory lap in 2002. I believe that's when that
Yes.
was. But I kind of had it coming back to me when Kyle Williams didn't secure those punts.
That was heartbreaker, man. That was tough, man. That was tough. Hey, what's up, Kev? Welcome to the Niner Six.
Oh, that's my guy.
Yeah, Kev. I love his articles. I like reading what he posts, man. This guy is amazing. All you guys are amazing, man. I am so humbled by watching. I've been a football fan since 1975. I started watching the Niners when Steve DeBerg was quarterback, prior to Joe Montana coming for Notre Dame, prior to Bill Walsh coming as a coach. So I got to and I got to experience that. So I've been watching football for a very long time, and I got to enjoy the Montana. And growing up in the 80s, loving the Niners, brother. I got used to two Hall of Fame quarterbacks back to back before the salary cap was there, when you could have two quarterbacks like that on the same roster with Joe Montana and Steve Young. So I got the honor to watch. If I mention his name, let's see how much you know your history with football.
Yep.
If I mention Fifi, you know which player that is?
I don't actually. You're actually putting me on the spot here. I would love to learn a little bit though.
Okay, Fifi is Jerry Rice.
Okay.
Jerry Rice, when he came out of college, they called him Fifi his first rookie year. And Griffin, our corner at the time, gave him that nickname, Fifi. So, a little bit of history for you. A lot of people don't know. Whenever I do giveaways, people that haven't heard it before, that's something you can't really look up on Google, and so it's something that people either know or don't know, and it's not a big thing, but it's just to know that
if you know, you know.
If you know, you know. So yeah, so I grew up and I got spoiled. Like I said, I grew up watching Joe Montana, Steve Young, Roger Craig, Tom Rathman, Ronnie Lott, and so forth. And it's always something that I enjoyed. And I also got, just growing up loving the 49ers. And a lot of my family are Raider fans. And I was always the type of person that never wanted to do what everybody else was doing, but I wanted to do my own thing. So they were all Raider fans. So I'm like, I don't want to follow them. So I'm like, well, who should I pick? That's when Steve Durr was quarterback, and I was like, eh. But then when Joe Montana came in and Bill Walsh, and they started building that dynasty, I just fell in love, man. And I've been a Niner fan since. So your dad brought you to know the Niners. That's interesting. That's good. That's a good legacy.
And it's funny. And it's funny because I'm wearing the 5-time Super Bowl shirt, like it's a retro shirt. But realistically, Joe's not my guy. Steve's my guy. I remember Joe at the end of his but I remember Joe at the end of his time. Okay. I remember vividly the Lawrence Taylor game where where he got taken out. Mm-hmm. And then after that, again, as a kid, you don't understand what happened before you because there's no internet to look all that back up.
True.
I had to listen to it. From my father, but Steve was my guy the entire time. And that's why, so it's weird. The Yankees, right? Being a Yankee fans always want to yell at you about 27 rings. Well,
Yeah.
how many of those were you alive for? None of those matter. So if I want to be on the Yankee fan side of things, I've seen 5 Yankee championships. If I want to be on the 49ers side of things, I've seen 1 Niners championship that I can remember. I was alive for many of them, but the one that sticks out in my mind is 1994. And that's the one that I'll always cherish close to my heart. I was 10 years old when it happened. I haven't seen one since, but I have one. So that's what I will say. So when people always come to people about, 5-time, well, how many? Leonard Marshall. I'm sorry, my bad. I'm sorry. I knew that I was getting that wrong. But
I hear you.
when you talk about how many you've seen, I've seen one, and that was very special. And that's the one that I'll always keep near and dear to my heart. Even if we get one now as an adult, that one is the one that I'm going to hold on to because of. See, I was lucky enough as a kid, whatever, you kind of have something in your mind about, okay, it's the 49ers and the Cowboys, and the winner of this game wins the Super Bowl. Right? As a kid, you can think that, okay? I was lucky enough to get on a podcast with Jesse Sapolo, and I asked him the question. I said, listen, as a dumb kid at 10 years old, after that NFC Championship game, I thought the Super Bowl was a formality. Was there any sense of that inside that locker room? And he said, yes, we'd never say anything like that, but we knew it was a done deal. And that was really, really cool to hear from somebody who was on a team that I vividly remember. And it's crazy that they thought the same exact way, that literally the Super Bowl was the NFC Championship. Hearing a player say that is bigger than you thinking that in your mind. So that's where I'm at when it comes to at least championships.
It's interesting you say that, Jason, because growing up, again, if people ask me, do you hate the Seahawks? And I'm like, I don't like the Seahawks, especially what the fans did to Navarro Bowman when he got hurt.
Navarro Bowman.
That kind of put salt on the wound. But as a 80s kid, I hated the Cowboys and still do, because back then it didn't matter who you faced in the AFC. It was Niners and Cowboys, a Super Bowl in that NFC Championship, and it was almost guaranteed, and it was, that whoever represented the NFC would bring home the Lombardi Trophy. The AFC would not do that because back then those teams, they were good, but not as good as the NFC. So it was always a battle between Cowboys and Niners. So, that Super Bowl, I remember Steve Young vividly watching that game and that playoff game where, if it wasn't for that fat start that they got on the Cowboys, they might have not won that game, because the Cowboys started to pick momentum in the second half. But because we had that touchdown to Jerry Rice right before the half, to me personally was crucial on winning that game, and kind of sealed the deal for that championship game. And the Niners were able to be in their 5th Super Bowl and playing against San Diego, and beat the way they beat the Chargers. Steve Young had 6 touchdowns record,
6 tutties. And the funny thing is too is the Eric Davis interception is the same thing that I look at. The 49ers needed that start.
Yes.
They needed that start in that game, because no matter where the game was, whether it was in Candlestick, whether it was in Arlington, it always felt like Dallas somehow had the upper hand. And there's always the stories about the 49ers dumping water on their side of the field in the first half, or whatever. Everybody's looking for a competitive edge, and if you can get away with it at the time. But I agree with you. The 49ers needed to start fast in that game and let people know. And that's why, if you notice, when Steve Young's running off the field, yes, he's celebrating a Super Bowl berth, but at the same time, I feel like that was the hill to climb. And once it was done, again, the Super Bowl was a formality. I don't care who came out on the other side. It could have been the AFC Pro Bowl team trying to actually beat that 49ers team. They would have had zero shot. It was all about the 49ers and the Cowboys. And once that game was done, the Super Bowl was in hand. And anybody who thought anything different either wasn't paying attention or just doesn't like the 49ers.
Exactly. And to Steve Young, like you said, that victory lap that he did, I mean, you got to imagine as a competitor, just the year before, Jason, they lost, and they lost badly to the Cowboys, and Steve Young got beat up, and he had a whole season to having to deal with that loss. So that just meant that much more for him to, like you said, to get over that hump and represent the Niners as the starting quarterback, because he has more than one ring, but not as a starter. Now he was able to accomplish what he wanted to do, is win a ring as a starter for the San Francisco 49ers, and he was able to accomplish that with in that team. A lot of people tell me, well, the Niners, they bought a lot of their players. So I'm like, well, they brought in players that needed to be brought, like Deion Sanders. They brought in a lot of players. Ricky Jackson from the New Orleans Saints. They brought in him.
Ricky Waters too.
Ricky Waters. So they brought in a lot of players, but they still had to work together. They still had to accomplish everything together.
But at the same time, Dallas gets no sort of flack for taking Ken Norton, for taking Charles Haley. So it's not like it was an arms race. It's not the 49ers buying anything. It's them keeping up with their main competition. There was no sort of competition outside of the Cowboys. So if the Cowboys make a move, you better make a move so you can compare and you can move with them. So it's less about buy. It's not the Yankees. The Yankees have bought World Series. The Yankees have absolutely bought World Series where they've got out every single player. That's different. This was an arms race. This was keeping pace with the team that was literally stopping you from winning the sixth Lombardi. And that's different than just essentially throwing money at anybody that you can, in my opinion.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. You have to be competitive with those next year. The Niners did. Eddie DeBartolo did what he had to do. Carmen Policy, they did what they had to do to bring in the right players at the right key positions to get them over that hump. And the rest is history. We got our fifth Lombardi Trophy. We're 5-time champions. And one thing I can boast about that, like you said, Jason, is that I got the opportunity to see all five during my lifetime. I seen them all, and I would enjoy them. The last two that we all saw were not the outcomes that we wanted. Personally, the game against Kansas City was more painful or hurtful than the Ravens game, in my personal opinion. That one hurt.
Both hurt.
Both. Yeah. At the end of the day, you don't get the trophy. They both hurt. But Kansas City, I just feel in the Kansas City game we were dominant for 3 quarters. We were beating them on both sides of the ball, and we just kind of took a foot off the pedal on the fourth. A lot of people want to blame Jimmy, and I want to get this is your thoughts. I want to get your thoughts on that. They blame Jimmy a lot. Now Jimmy could have get that ball to Emmanuel Sanders and possibly could have won it, but they still had a lot of time left. If that would have been a completed touchdown, Patrick Mahomes still could have had a chance to come back and kick a field goal or something. But I think the defense kind of gave up that long play to Hill that kind of threw everything in whack, in my opinion. I want to get your thoughts. Do you think it was Jimmy? Do you think we lost the game supposedly because of Jimmy? I want to get your thoughts on that particular game, Jason.
I'm glad that you just asked me that, because I literally last weekend just sat in silence and I watched the entire fourth quarter. For the first time, I was in Miami for that game. I wasn't at the game, but I was in Miami at a big party, and I watched the game, and I had not watched that game since. So I watched the fourth quarter just so I could learn some things and I could be objective, because I'm over it now at this point. It hurt when I was there. It was very bad. Chiefs fans were not nice about it. No one was talking crazy to them. Like I sat there and I watched and I was quiet. I know how this game goes. You don't boast in the first or second or third quarter. You boast when the game's over. Yes. So you don't say anything crazy. But Chiefs fans really let me have it down there, which is why I absolutely took every chance that I could to go at Chiefs fans on Twitter when they lost against the Tampa Bay Bucks, because I said, okay, now you guys like it. Now no one was talking crazy to you before. Now you get to get it. But I'll tell you this. I watched the fourth quarter, all 22, sat there with a glass of alcohol in my hand because you need it. It took an entire team to lose that game. And I am a part founding member of OnlyShans. I love our coach. Okay. Our coach is the best play designer in the league. His offense is immaculate. It gets run across the league by many other teams, but it took the entire team to lose this one. Let me explain. Sure, you can throw blame on Jimmy Garoppolo. He missed throws. He misreads. Fine. The offensive line missed blocks, allowed things to happen to him that shouldn't happen at any quarterback. Sure, the defense. I want to talk about that 3rd and 15 play a little bit more.
Okay.
So I've spoken to people on this team privately. What I've learned is that the night before the Super Bowl, the 49ers ran straight cover 3 the entire time. Same responsibility. It's a very simple scheme. You have Nick Bosa and D Ford getting the quarterback. All you have to do is just play sound coverage on the back end, and you'll be fine because they're going to get to the quarterback eventually. This is something that I've never told anybody on a podcast or anything like that either. The night before the walkthrough, they changed responsibility on that cover call, which ended up being WASP, 3rd and 15. That's why you see so much confusion. So if you watch that play again, I implore anybody who has all 22 to watch this. Emmanuel Mosley trails his defender into Fred Warner, which makes absolutely no sense. Why are you trailing a receiver who, 1, is short of the sticks, 2, is running right into Fred Warner? Okay? A lot of people want to throw this at the feet of Jimmy Ward. It's not Jimmy Ward's fault. They changed responsibilities on who was crook. That's the word, crook. Yep. That's the term. They changed the responsibility. It just so happened that it happened on the worst time that it could happen. Nick Bosa got held just a smidge to keep himself away from Patrick Mahomes. But essentially, 3rd and 15 comes down to a coverage mistake, and it's not Jimmy Ward's fault. All Emmanuel Mosley really had to do was sink all the way back to his spot, and he's there, and there's nowhere to throw that ball to Tyreek Hill. This is literally, I'm not telling you something that I believe. I'm telling you what people on this team have told me.
Facts.
No names. No names. And I'm not trying to flex on anybody here saying, I speak to people on the team. This is what I've heard. And then as any good journalist would do, you hear something from somebody, you go to double check with someone else. And I double checked and triple checked. And I went and I even got players on FaceTime. Show me. And they showed me on the all 22. And honestly, I had one player tell me sometimes they believe this game is fixed because there's no way that you change that coverage at that moment. And then all of a sudden that happens. So I don't want to make people sad, but I feel like 3rd and 15, when you try to throw it at people's feet, it's not fair because you don't understand what goes on in the meeting room. You don't understand what goes on at the walkthrough. And 3rd and 15 will forever haunt me for that moment. And I've heard it from many players, and I've corroborated it across with many people. 3rd and 15 comes down to a straight-up mix-up of coverage and responsibilities. I'm sorry, guys.
Wow. That is – wow. Thank you for sharing that here on the Niner Sickness Report, man. Thank you for bringing that out. I'm pretty sure, like I said, it's not that you're bragging about anything, but you have sources. And when you, like you said, when people bring things to you, a journalist, you go and you dig deeper and try to get everything you possibly can. And for what you saw when you were told and found out, that was a key major point in that game. And, Vegas, people running the money, you can't pinpoint here and there, man, but they have to have money. They have to have their hands here and there, man. You can't blame things on referees, but, it takes a little bit of everything. But I'm glad you brought that up because a lot of people want to just blame Jimmy. And it seems now that we drafted Trey Lance because they want someone to come in and they're tired of Jimmy because he's always hurt. Now they want to emphasize that it's his fault because of that Super Bowl. And I don't believe that. I believe that he could have done more. Of course, but the holding, that one pass to Kittle that was blocked, that could have gone further for us. I mean, so many key things occurred in that game that just added up. And based on what you just said today as well, it's and then Manuel Mosley was second year or first
Yeah,
year.
and look, and don't blame him. Talk about the scheme. When you run a scheme which the players describe as simple, because it is simple. You have your responsibilities and you know guys are going to get pressure on the quarterback. When you change that up at the last moment, the day before,
Yeah.
how could you not, and why? And why?
Why would you do it?
And
Yeah.
Kev knows what I'm talking about. Kev knows exactly what I'm talking about because he's been a coach and he understands responsibilities. At that moment, why? And can you blame Emmanuel Mosley in that spot for that? No. I love Robert Saleh. I love this the defensive scheme, and I'm rooting for Robert Saleh to do well with the Jets. That was a mistake. That was definitely a mistake, and that's what happened. So, unfortunately, that's what it came down to. It hurts. It really hurts to think about it that way because the 49ers were this close. If they squashed that play out from having their sixth Lombardi, and it just hurts to hear that was the reason. If a team outplays you, if the team got the better of you in that game, nothing can be said. For me, that one hurts a lot more than the Ravens game. They had that game in their hands. With the Ravens game, they had to fight back, and they fought back to the last moment. With the Chiefs game, they had that game in their hands. And if they had to do it again, if we had a time machine and we were able to do it all over again, I'd walk right to the sideline and tell them to just send him this way, and the 49ers have their Super Bowl. But it's just how the game is. Players are beholden to the scheme. Players are beholden to what coaches tell them to do. And unfortunately, even as a player, if you know something's wrong, you can't change anything. It's basically like being an employee, right? If your boss tells you to do something,
Yeah.
what do you have to do? You have to do what the boss tells you to do. As far as Jimmy G goes, you're absolutely right, Beto. He needed to do more in that game, but it's not all his fault. If we want to do an entire breakdown of the fourth quarter, Joe Staley misses a block.
Yeah.
There's a checkout of a play. There's guys double teaming Chris Jones and not putting their hands in his rib cage so he can't put his arms up and knock down passes. There's so many little things. Deebo Samuel and Kendrick Bourne run the wrong route on it took an entire team to blow that fourth quarter. It really did. It was a team effort. It's not at the feet of Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't want to throw it at him. Look, everybody wants to point out the play where Kittle's running wide open and he doesn't see him. It's the first read, but it's everybody. It was everyone. Everyone contributed to that. Even Kyle Shanahan. His play calling is baffling. On first down, you're getting 6 and 7 with Mostert. And then on second down, you're running a pass play. Why? So then the pass play ends up being a sack or whatever it is. And now on third and a mile, you have no shot with nobody who can stretch the field to getting this first down. I love Kyle Shanahan. I love him. Like I said, co-founding member of OnlyShans. He's not absolved of this blame. He really isn't. So it's everybody. Everyone deserves a piece of it. Everyone deserves a piece of the blame.
I'm glad that you bring up Kyle Shanahan like that. You say, I love his genius mind, his play calling, but he's still human. People got to remember, he's still young as a head coach. He was been a coordinator, but now he's still ahead, and a lot of the decisions that he made were not good decisions. But it was a learning, for him, and you would think he would get a lot of that from the Falcons game. But being an offensive coordinator, not having control in that game, because a lot of people wanted to blame him for that game. It's like he wasn't the head coach. Now, come to the 49ers, he was, and he made some bonehead calls. But overall, like you said, a lot of players, Staley, Deebo, and Bourne running the same route. It just seems like the wheels fell apart in the fourth. As good as we did for 3 quarters, we just fell apart in the fourth quarter. And then based on what you shared earlier about that play, it just wasn't our day to win, man. So that's sad.
Here's what I'll say. Beto. With the Atlanta game, at the same time, while you're baffled about why Kyle Shanahan gets the blame, I'll give you this counterpoint. Kyle Shanahan would have got all the praise had they finished that game.
True.
Not Dan Quinn. Not Dan Quinn. Nobody would have sat there and said Dan Quinn led the Atlanta Falcons to a Super Bowl. Nobody. And I think that Kyle Shanahan, as an offensive coordinator in that game, I think they're two different situations. And let me explain. The 28-3 thing, I believe realistically that he wanted to prove a point against Bill Belichick. And he wanted to put 40 on him in the Super Bowl. That's why he continued to pass. And he abandoned the run. If he wanted to win the game, he would have won the game the way that he wanted to. It just run the ball. But I think he wanted to prove a point. Like watch me put 40 on Bill because he already had the 49ers job. Remember, he signed that before the Super Bowl happened. True. He already knew. So he already knew. And again, if they win that game, all the praise goes to Kyle Shanahan. Nobody was praising Atlanta's defense. There was nothing about Atlanta's defense that everybody liked. And Dan Quinn's the godfather of cover 3. Nobody was praising that defense. It would have all been with Kyle Shanahan. With the 49ers game, I don't know who to blame realistically when it comes to people running the wrong route. Play calls are the play calls. We all know that the concepts in Kyle Shanahan's playbook aren't complicated. What's complicated is the verbiage. It will take you 7 seconds to call the entire play. 7 seconds. X22, right, Y, sweep. It takes you a long time to get across all of that. So it's not necessarily the concepts, because people run those concepts all over the league. It's the verbiage. So I don't know, and you're absolutely right. The head coach, when things go right, they get the praise. But when things go wrong, you do have to answer for why it didn't happen. So I love Kyle Shanahan. I'm glad that he's our coach, but he's not above criticism. There's things that I don't agree with, the way that he handles players at times. Look what he did to Killer Weatherspoon. Put him completely in the tank. Yeah. And then when he finally, and he was the only person to finally get out of Shanahan's doghouse, as you saw the last 4 games of last year. And sometimes the way that he handles certain plays, like Kyle is a very much my guy thing. And evidenced by Tom Compton still on the team. Kendrick Bourne will drop a pass, but he don't get benched. If Pettis drops a pass, he's gone. It's kind of favoritism, at least a little bit. When he has this guy and he really likes what you do, there's nothing you can do wrong. If you're on his bad side and you make a mistake, you're gone. You're done. And that's part of the criticisms that I have with him. The good things that I'll say, the same players that I talked to about that 3rd and 15 play will tell you that when Kyle Shanahan walks in a room, everybody stands at attention. Everyone gives their eyes to him. And when he talks to you about the game, they're blown away by what he knows, what he's able to come up with, and they never understand how smart he is. Like guys tell me all the time, I thought I studied film. This guy is talking about things that I never talked about. So is there good and bad? Yes. Is he perfect? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. So that's what I've learned.
Players have said themselves about kind of like what you're alluding to with Kyle Shanahan, that players know a lot. And when Kyle Shanahan talks to them, they're blown away. They're like, wow, I never understood this way. I never saw it this way. So he brings a lot of enlightenment to that. But he definitely has his faults. Moving on, Jason, and I appreciate you once again being here on my show, man.
No problem, man.
You're amazing. I want to get your perspective on this. Should we start Trey Lance if he does good in training? If the training camp ends and they're kind of like side to side, Jimmy and Trey Lance, they're both doing good. Would you still go with the experience in Jimmy, or would you go with the young kid and just let him take his shots as the game goes?
Well, I'm going to tell you what they're thinking, and then I'll tell you what I'm thinking, because that conflicts. And again, what I think doesn't matter. What the coaches and that organization thinks, that's what matters. Correct. So basically, when you look around and you see the trades that are happening with quarterbacks that are in Jimmy Garoppolo's tier, we're talking Teddy Bridgewater, Sam Darnold, those guys, and you see what they're fetching. Jimmy Garoppolo didn't really have too much on the trade market right now. And I'll be honest with you, you shouldn't be giving away a starting quarterback in this
Correct.
league for nothing. And when I say that, that is no slight at Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo is a starting quarterback in this league, and that is extremely valuable. Ask any team like us that has had to start Nick Mullins and CJ
Yes.
Beathard how valuable a starting quarterback who is on the field, how much that matters.
Yes.
You go and you make all these moves, and I think the writing was on the wall, I think, with Jimmy. You flirt with, Matthew Stafford, you flirt with Deshaun Watson, you make no bones about, the Tom Brady thing really came down to Tom Brady telling them, I want to be here, but I need you to pay me $40 million because I've taken pay cuts my entire career and I'm 40-something. And finally, the 49ers said, no, that's too much.
Yeah.
And they move on. But they kind of let you know what they were thinking about Jimmy. And let's be realistic. Every criticism that you have about Jimmy Garoppolo at this point is he just can't stay on the field.
Yep.
That's it. It just can't stay on the field. And I hate to bring it to that, but and that's why it kind of baffles me when I see people on Twitter who are, oh, Jimmy Garoppolo is better than Kirk Cousins and this guy and this guy. Kirk Cousins has thrown for 4,000 yards every single year he's been in the league. 30 touchdowns, has never been hurt in a game. And it's like 1 year, 2019, is not enough for me to elevate him over other people. At the same time, his win-loss record speaks for itself. The team wins when he plays.
Yes.
The team loses when he doesn't. It is very simple. As far as Trey Lance goes, here's the part that I get nervous about, Beto. I kind of understood where they were coming from with the whole let's start Jimmy now and give Trey a minute to wait. Here's the problem. Trey Lance hasn't played football in a long time.
Yes.
I have a hard time thinking that someone can develop by sitting.
Okay.
Now, does that help you understand the playbook? Can you watch? Cool. But I start to get to a point where, is this a detriment to Trey? Because he's not playing tackle football. He's not understanding the speed of the game. The NFL game is light years from college, especially he played in the FCS.
Yes.
He didn't play D1 like Justin Fields, like any of those guys. And those guys are guys that are going to be in the league. So when the trade up happened, I predicted that Jimmy was going to stay. I predicted that it was going to be Justin Fields at 3. I was absolutely wrong, clearly. But at the same time, when you so back to the question that you asked me, should Trey Lance start week 1? I don't know. And I'll tell you why. Here's the dichotomy. If Jimmy Garoppolo goes out there and plays 17 games fully, then that means the 49ers have won 10, 11, 12 games. Because you're not going to stick with Jimmy Garoppolo. You're not going to stick with Jimmy Garoppolo for 17 if he's stinking it up. Right?
Yes.
At the same time, does that hold Trey Lance back? And I've seen what this offense looks like with a stripped-down playbook, because there are concepts in this playbook, Beto, that are straight. Jimmy Garoppolo is under center, or the quarterback. Any quarterback is under center, and it's stripped down to the point where pre-snap, you look straight, and you cut off a side of the field. And you choose one side that you're going to make your reads to. It's not 1, 2, 3, 4. It's literally cut in half. That's your side, and you're only going to those two people. So this offense has been stripped down to its bare minimum, especially when it's Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard. Mm-hmm. Trey Lance can absolutely 100%, no questions asked, run that sort of offense. No questions asked. Even if he's a rookie, I have no bones about saying that he can run that offense. With this running attack, and if the offense stays healthy, they can absolutely run that offense. But Trey Lance wasn't brought here to run that offense. Trey Lance was brought here because of his mind, and he was brought here to unlock everything.
Yes.
So at the same time, I know they're going to go with Jimmy week 1. I just know it. There's no way you can have a $27 million backup at this point. No one's in the market right now for a quarterback right now. So Jimmy Garoppolo goes out there and he plays 17 games and they win 12 games, no matter what the outcome is in the playoffs. They've boosted Jimmy's trade value because the writing's on the wall. You didn't move up for Trey Lance to keep Jimmy Garoppolo for 2 years. I don't care what Jed York says. There's no way that can happen. I don't care what he says. So it's a complicated answer, Beto. Honestly, I want to say, here's the thing. Here's how I'll end it. If they really want to trade a start, they would have moved Jimmy Garoppolo a long time ago. There's no way that you can move him right now, especially after June 1st. Yeah, you can save all that money, but there's no one out there that is going to eat up that money on the free agent market. So it's not like there's someone out there because you've cleared up your $27 million or whatever it is that you're going to go get that's going to like lead this team. No, there's nobody out there. All those guys are going to be for cheap. Golden Tate, Melvin Ingram, any of those guys. Those guys aren't coming in for a ton of money. That's just not how it's going to work. So I think Jimmy's going to start. Do I think Trey should start? If you were going to do that, you had to do it after trade. You had to do it on draft night. You had to move Jimmy Garoppolo on draft night, and you had to push all your chips to the table because the last thing I'll say is there's no team that's more dangerous than a loaded roster with a rookie on the rookie pay scale. And that just allows you to fill out that roster even more. So right now, what you're looking at is Jimmy Garoppolo. Hope he plays well because if he plays well, the 49ers win games, and that's all we want at the end of the day. Correct. But this is his last year to prove to the NFL that he is a viable starter, which is very valuable in this league. And if he plays very well and he stays injury-free, someone will come up with a high second-round pick or a first-round pick for him.
I like your answer, and I appreciate it, brother. It was a tough question because it can go either way, and you're trying to be more perspective and trying to add your own feelings into it. Like you say, what the Niners do, what would you do? And I agree. I believe Jimmy will start week 1 because you don't pay that amount of money for a backup. Now, whether he maintains his position, that'll be up to Jimmy. But I do believe that when you bring competition into a certain position, it just elevates no matter who you are at what position you play. If you ever played football, somebody is gunning for your position. It's going to elevate your fire, just like with Aaron Rodgers and bringing in Jordan Love, even though that's a different situation. But you saw what Rodgers did. He was to become an MVP. Now, am I comparing Jimmy to Rodgers? Of course not. But if Jimmy can get a fire, because he wasn't, last year, let's be real. Mullins did not threaten his job. C.J. Beathard did not threaten Jimmy's job. It was Jimmy's job to have. So this year, Jimmy understands, okay, I have to make a statement, not just for myself here, but maybe moving on to go into another team. So he's pretty much building his resume for another team following this season, and he needs to play well. The key thing, Jason, is we all know this. When he's healthy, he wins games. And people want to disagree with that, but how many games did we win with Mullins and CJ?
I think he won 1, so I think we won 6 last year, I believe. CJ won the Arizona game, so we won 5 games between the two of them. And the worst part is, the most frustrating part, and this is why I believe in this 49ers team this year. The worst part is when you look back at last year, how many games were lost because the quarterback turned the ball over 4 times instead of 3, or or instead of 2, and not only Mullins, CJ Beathard did it for years before, but Mullins was the guy that was thrown into the fire right there. And again, I'm not trying to pile on the guy. Again, backups are backups for a reason.
Yes,
backups should not be starting for a long time. If you have a good backup, then you don't have a good starting quarterback. That's what is it? If you have 2 good quarterbacks, you have no good quarterbacks.
Yes,
that's the way to look at it. So there was the Philly game is the one that jumps out to my mind immediately. That Eagles game should have been wrapped up, and it was wrapped up in the first 2 plays of that game. Kyle said, okay, Nick Mullins, we're going to set you up with an easy throw to Kendrick Bourne on a slant, airmailed him. Next play, the leak to Kyle Juszczyk, completely missed him, and that's kind of when you had to realize, okay, this is in trouble, and you see Nick Mullins walk away. That was a throw that my 4-year-old daughter probably hits. And Kyle Juszczyk is running down the field for 60 yards. Even if it's not a touchdown, it's a big play, and it puts you in position to score a touchdown. So, yes, so much of what happened last year was due to the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't healthy. And having a starting quarterback who can stay in the game and play well is extremely valuable. Who would have known? Who would have thought?
Yep. Who would have thunk it, huh? To that point too, Jason, as we move on to our last segment, and we'll go ahead and let you go, because I know you're a very important guy and you're being pursued.
No, I'm not a very important guy. Hey, I got you, man. I got you. I'm here for you, and like I said, I'm honored to talk with you, bro.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. So, uh, listen, reality was last year one of our weakest room in the area was our quarterback. This year, by the addition of Trey Lance and a healthy Jimmy, our quarterback room is much better, much improved, especially with that offensive line becoming better with the addition of that center that we need, that quarterback at center with Alex Mack and bringing Aaron Banks out of Notre Dame, possibly to compete with Daniel Brunskill at the right guard position, which I think that Mike McClinchy will do much better knowing that you don't have to worry too much about that position next to him. I want to get two questions for you, bro, and then we'll go ahead and end this. I want to get your thoughts on Mike McClinchy as a player. What are your thoughts of him? I know he hasn't lived up to that ninth overall pick, but I think he's a great player. Could he be better in the pass protection? Yes, but he's an excellent run stop, run player, so not blocker. What's your thoughts on him? And if you can share with my viewers your thoughts on Mike McClinchy.
So I think you nailed it. When you bring somebody in for what they're good at and they're really good at it, and then they don't excel in what you knew they wouldn't excel in, what are you really looking for? Mike McGlinchey was brought here to be a run blocker, and he's still a premier 1-2 right tackle run blocker.
Yes, sir.
The disappointment comes in with not improving on the pass game for this long. That's the disappointment. And as much as Mike McGlinchey has taken heat, I've never been one of those guys, because the more I get into being in the media and reporting, the more I realize I don't understand the nuances and intricacies of each play, each position. And it's hard for me to just dump on a guy and say, oh man, look at him, he missed this. No, well, you don't know the protection scheme. You don't know what was called. You don't know any of that. It just seemed like when Mike McGlinchey would blow a block in pass pro, it would be in the biggest moment. Yeah. On a third down when they always had to have it. So it's super magnified. And I think that really led to a narrative being built against Mike McGlinchey. Comes in a little bit slimmer, and it's the first year that he doesn't have Joe Staley on the team, right? And all right, so a little bit more inside stuff. Mike McGlinchey seems like an overthinker, and again, we've gotten this from people where he's banging on offensive linemen's doors, wanting to go over the playbook even at night when things are done and guys are trying to relax. He's just somebody who's a little bit of an overthinker. So I think last year he just got in his head. He was slim. Sometimes you can see him backing up into his position a little too quickly, trying to beat people to spots, with not playing instinctually, playing with his mind. Okay. And what I mean by that is the best players are playing based on their keys and they're just moving with their instincts. The ones that aren't playing well are playing because they're in their own head. And I think Mike McGlinchey got in his own head last year, definitely heard everything that everybody was saying, whether it's the media or on Twitter. These guys need to get off social media and stop looking at what guys like I or anybody like me, myself, are saying, because, again, we're just trying to report. I don't pile on players. That's not my thing. I don't do that because, again, I'm not in meeting rooms. I don't understand what the play call is. I don't understand protections all the time. I'm working towards that. The more I learn, the more I'll be able to give opinions. But he listened to all of the noise, all of it. And that definitely got in his head last year, and it led to some big mistakes, which happened at big moments. I think that Mike McGlinchey gets dumped on a little unfairly because of when these things happen. And people need to put things in perspective. If he was brought here to run block, he's been that and more in spades completely. That's exactly what he was brought here for. Can you kill him for not improving on his pass protection? For sure. But you really can't get upset at somebody who you already knew coming out that was his problem. So if you want to kill him for where he was drafted, I don't do that either, because that's the Solomon Thomas thing. Solomon Thomas didn't ask to be drafted at 3.
Yeah.
Mike McGlinchey didn't ask to be drafted at 9. So don't hold him up to where he was drafted. That's not how you should do that. So, and I feel that that's happening now with Javon Kinlaw, because he was taken where he was and he's replacing DeForest Buckner. Now people are unfairly heaping expectations on him because of where he was drafted. He didn't draft himself there. None of these guys ever draft themselves there. So that's not fair, in my opinion. So with Mike McGlinchey, there's room to grow. This is they picked up his 5th-year option. This is his contract year. We're going to find out really quickly. But I really do think, and you touched on it a little bit, I think Aaron Banks starts actually at right guard. You don't invest in a second round, offensive tackle and not start him, especially him being a gold domer, just like Mike McGlinchey. I think that's going to help immensely. The Alex Mack thing, realistically, a lot of the offensive line calls that were messed up were because center was such in flux.
Yes.
Harness Grasu starts week 1 and just he doesn't know the calls and if you don't know the protections, here's the best way I could put it. Look at how the offense hummed with Weston Richburg there. And Ben Garland did a very solid job. I do not want to talk crazy about Ben Garland. In the Super Bowl, I could nitpick some of the things that he did wrong in the fourth quarter. But for all intents and purposes, when you're talking about remember, he got thrown into the fire in the Saints game.
Yep.
That's Thunderdome. That's not you pulling up to a game against the New York Jets. Yeah, that's in the middle of like the biggest game of the year at that point. Played admirably the rest of the year.
Yes.
But I really think that we're downplaying the fact that the center was in flux and how much that contributes to what happens with offensive line play. So does Mike McGlinchey have some things that he needs to clean up? For sure. Does he get dumped on a little unfairly? For sure. Both can be true.
Very, very good point. There's no more need to add to that. You explained that very well. I appreciate that, Jason. So as we come to into our show, and I've been very excited to have you on here. I can't say that enough. Appreciate you, brother. Last thing that I want to bring up, ask you for you to comment for our viewers is, who do you think is going to fight for that third spot at receiver, in your opinion?
So it's funny. There's a large discussion about how often Kyle Shanahan uses 3 wide receiver sets, and it's among the lowest in the league. But the question that I pose to people is, did the 49ers actually have 3 receivers healthy at the same time that actually forced you into a 3 wide receiver set?
Come on now.
So Kendrick Bourne, I love him. He's going to be incredibly missed. And I don't think 49er fans, I mean, there's a large outpouring of 49er fans that miss him. But I don't think you understand what Kendrick Bourne did. Deebo Samuel, unfortunately, we all love him. We love what he does with the ball in his hands. He's not on the field. And when you talk about the 3 receiving options on this team, it goes Kittle, it goes Deebo, and Ayuk. Those are your 3. Those aren't 3 receivers. So the 49ers never run 3 receiver sets. But I would argue that they've never really had 3 receivers at the same time that would necessitate that. Plus, you're also talking about taking Kyle Juszczyk off the field, who you've paid a premium. Literally more than what running backs make at this point.
Yes.
So you've shown how valuable the fullback position is. So when the Julio Jones thing was happening, there was a lot of discussion about, the 49ers won't be in on that because they don't run 3 wide receiver sets. No, they didn't run 3 wide receiver sets because they didn't have 3 wide receivers at the same time that necessitated that. And Kendrick Bourne did an admirable job of filling in for Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk and being that solid guy. Right now, the 3rd wide receiver, out of all reports in camp, right now, it looks like Mohamed Sanu is leading, and it looks like Juwan Jennings, a 6th-round pick from the year before, from all reports that I've gotten from training camp, are the 2 that are in front. I, myself, have been advocating on, Golden Tate, D.D. Westbrook. I was hoping the Jets would kick Jamison Crowder to the street, and that would have been electric, honestly. Yep. I think that he's somebody who is one of the most underrated receivers in this league. And not that means the 49ers would have run more 3 wide receiver sets. Not that Golden Tate, D.D. Westbrook, or Jamison Crowder puts this room over the top. I would just like to see more solid names, guys with track records, guys who have played this game for years and you know what they can do. The X factor is going to be this. If Jalen Hurd is ready to go, I think that they have big plans to have him in there. I was just on Grant Cohn's show today, and I was talking about, I really feel like they want to deploy Jalen Hurd in a similar way that the Steelers deployed Chase Claypool with push passes and putting him all over the field. Remember, Jalen Hurd was a running back at Tennessee.
Yes.
He lost his job to some guy named Alvin Kamara. You guys know him? Okay. So he didn't lose his job.
A little bit, but yeah.
Little bit, right. Yeah, he's all right. And he moved on to Baylor, but he's that ultimate X factor. Chess piece, move him around, and I think that's really the X factor when it comes to this wide receiver 3 discussion. As of right now, let's just say on June 17th, because that's the date, give me Mosanu and Jawan Jennings right behind. But I really feel like this third wide receiver spot is held for Jalen Hurd as long as he's healthy.
Very good, very good. I like that. And you're right. A lot of people have the misperception of the three receivers that Kyle Shanahan runs and running with, especially having Juice paying all that money. What I want to do now to end the segment is I want to have the viewers ask you a question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So to all my viewers, if you have a question you want to ask Jason, this is your opportunity to ask. Feel free to type it on the comments. I'll bring it up. Are you able to read the comments yourself, Jason? If not, I can read it for you.
I can see them. If you pull one up on the screen, I can definitely see them. But I've seen a lot of the comments. I see my guy Kevin here, and he says Juice has been underutilized in the passing game due to lack of solid quarterback play, just not as having three wide receiver. Yeah, I mean, that's my point, Kev, and you know what I'm talking about. If you're going to pay Kyle Juszczyk this premium, use him. He's a former tight end. Use him. Split him out. Play him everywhere. Use him more. I don't care if it's the wrong thing, but if you're telling me that you're going to pay a guy, use him. Use him, especially at a position that, except for a few teams, is basically obsolete at this point. Nobody uses a fullback. Old school teams do. So,
okay, we have our first question for you. Go ahead. If you go ahead and read it, it's from Tom.
Do you think the this year's team is better than the 2019 with all the moves we have done? I don't. And it's nothing against this team. And I'm going to tell you why. I think that 2019 was a perfect storm of circumstances for this 49ers team. Nick Bosa, rookie year, electric. Dee Ford playing, electric. When you talk about the schedule and how they won their games, and then when you get to the playoffs, right? And, me, I try to be down the middle objective. When you see the Minnesota Vikings knock off the New Orleans Saints and they're pulling up for your divisional game, who in their right mind ever thought that the Vikings had a shot at winning that game? And I didn't. And they sure as hell had no shot. Then the Packers pull up for the NFC Championship and they knock off. I think they as long as they got rid of Seattle, that was the only game that I was just like, I don't want Seattle, and that's it. I don't want to play them because you never know how that's going to go.
Yeah, Seattle.
But when I saw the Packers pull up, I remember it vividly. The Packers game happens. I call my boss and I said, I need 2 weeks off. I'm going to Miami for the Super Bowl. He's like, the game hasn't happened yet. I was like, that game is a done deal. I said, the Packers have no shot at beating this 49ers team, and that game was never close. Yep. So for me, I think it's very hard to say that this team can live up to that team because circumstances, context, all those things are lost on those. It's very hard to duplicate that defense, and I don't think it's going to be duplicated because Dee Ford and Nick Bosa were a force. I don't think people understand that, and I don't think people get how much that contributes. So do I think that they're better? No. Are they close? Sure. That's the best way I could put it.
Thank you. Thank you, Tom, for asking that question. Next question Kev has for you. Do you feel that Debo has been as hurt as he has due to an overuse as a running back?
No. I mean, here's why, Kev. If those injuries that he was happening were happening during contact, I would agree with you. He pulled his hamstring. No one touched him against Arizona. Broke his foot working out, with Richie James, who broke his wrist in Tennessee. Those weren't contact injuries. Those weren't, him concussions, anything like that. I think that one thing I will say about Deebo Samuel is I think that he's so much more than what he's being used as right now. I really do. Even when you look at the percentages of the routes that he wins on and how he gets himself open, I still believe that there's more, and his route tree is way bigger. And I'm going to point to the last game of 2019, right before the playoffs. I watched Deebo Samuel. That's Deebo Samuel's best game as a professional football player, hands down. And the Super Bowl up to 3/4 has a very, very good case.
Yep.
But he was cooking Shaquille Griffin on every route that he could, corner routes, down the field, not just slants. I promise you that this man has more in his bag than what he's being asked to do. The injuries I fear come from, I hate to say this because I don't want to be critical in this way. He needs to train a little bit harder in the offseason. Just got to get himself in a better shape. He came in out of shape after the broken foot. That all ends up playing a part in all these things. But I don't think that he's injured because of how they use him. I think they use him in a great way because they utilize him in a way that they manufacture his touches in a beautiful way because he is like a running back with the ball in his hands. I don't think it's that, though.
Good question, Kev. Moving on along, let's see here. Facebook user says, Jason, who starts at quarterback week 1 realistically? Overall, where do you rank this team on paper in the division?
It's Jimmy, and the 49ers are the best team in this division on paper. There's no questions asked. I mean, when you look at Seattle, they're so just Russell Wilson, DK Lockett, and after that, the roster just becomes whatever it is after that point. The Rams are the team that really scares me the most out of this division because when you pair a play caller like Sean McVay with a quarterback of the stature of Matthew Stafford that I believe he is, and Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Van Jefferson, Cam Akers, that's the team that scares me more than anything. Seattle's always going to be a thorn in the side of the 49ers just because of Russell Wilson. That's it, point blank. Until the day that Russell Wilson leaves the Seahawks, they're always going to be a problem, no matter how bad their roster is. But on paper, the 49ers are absolutely the best team in this division, and I don't really think it's too close.
Yeah, you good answer. Big Stinker. I love this guy's screen name. So who does Jason? Oh, hold on. Where did he go? Says, who does Jason write for? So he picked, what articles do you write for if you want to answer that for him?
So I write for 49ersgoldmine.com. It's basically a site that was started by Javier Vega of the Fourth and Goal podcast and Leo Luna, who used to work for all 49ers SI. And I have articles on there about Jimmy Ward, Jaquaski Tart. I'm working on an article right now about Ambry Thomas with film clips. I ran an article when I was in Justin Fields hype about 5 concepts that would actually benefit Justin Fields. So if you ever get a chance to check it out, 49ers Goldmine is where you'll find my articles, aside from me just talking nonsense on Twitter.
And you got to check him out. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to give everybody, before we end the show, all your platforms where they can reach you at, brother, because I want them to follow you. I'm pretty sure everybody's already following you, but in case there's that 1 or 2 people that don't follow you, I would love them to do so because you bring a lot of great content to viewers. So I'm going to go through these. So go ahead.
No, well, I just want to say thank you, Beto, for inviting me. I never will turn down any sort of invitation. Like I said, I always want to pay it forward to anybody, and I just want to talk ball. That's it. I enjoy this, and that's what people, I really think, even if my opinions are wrong, even if you don't agree with me, at the end of the day, I love this, and that's why I do it. So that's why I'll never turn down any of these invitations. So as far as where to follow me, most of the time, a lot of my stuff is just on Twitter at Jason Aponte 2103, where I'm sending memes and just joking around. And I drop some good thoughts on there, but it's really my YouTube channel. You guys can look me up on YouTube, Jason Aponte. That's where you'll find, most of my live streams. Like I just did one with Niners Nation where we did all our cold takes. Everybody likes to talk about when they get things right. Nobody ever wants to talk about when they get things wrong. And shoot. The more you shoot, the more you're going to miss. And I felt it was a fun exercise to laugh at ourselves and talk about where we got things wrong. So if you haven't checked that out, check it out. But yeah, most of the time it's just going to be on Twitter at Jason Aponte 2103 and on YouTube, Jason Aponte. Also, if anywhere that you guys get your audio podcast, Sprint Right Option podcast with my main man, Andrew Pasquini. That's really the podcast that I really focus in on for all 49ers content. So that's where you guys can find me.
Wonderful. Yeah, make sure to follow him. Make sure to support Jason. We're all here to support one another, man. And I've read a couple of your articles. I read Kev's articles, and I'm very intrigued by what you guys offer. I'm just going to read a couple more, and we're going to go ahead and end this. Even though Jason's very generous, and he says he can be here as long as he wants, I do want to be respectful of his time. So the next question is Izzy Ortiz says, do you see us being a Super Bowl contender this year?
That's a tough question, Ismail. Here's the thing that people lose sight of. You can project people with their rosters and say, hey, they're a Super Bowl contender based on that. But things happen throughout the season. Injuries just don't happen to the 49ers. Injuries can happen. Let's say the Bucs tomorrow, Tom Brady's working out, tears his ACL. The Bucs are out of it. And they're the Super Bowl champs. They're out now. And the NFC's wide open. The NFC is wide open. I really believe that Green Bay, Aaron Rodgers is not playing this year. Doesn't matter. Does not matter. They are not going to be able to repair that situation. I really believe that Aaron Rodgers is dug in and will say, I'm not playing. I've made enough. I don't care. Unless they work out a deal which sends him to Denver. Either way, he's out of the picture. Does anybody in the NFC East scare you? No. The Saints are done. I mean, Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill, I don't care who starts. Yeah. Nobody's worried about them. Realistically, your real competition comes from inside your own division. So are the 49ers a Super Bowl contender? Maybe. But I'm not ready to say all that. Context is important, and things happen across the year. You know, you find out things about play callers. There's always going to be that one team that nobody's talking about that all of a sudden pops up and wins 10, 11, 12, 13 games out of nowhere, and you have no rhyme or reason to how it happened or how you didn't see it coming. So on paper, are the 49ers a Super Bowl contender? For sure. Am I ready to say that out loud? Not yet. Not just yet, especially not on June 17th.
Okay, great answer. And I believe, Eric Paz, you had a question as well, but he kind of already answered that question in a nutshell. So we'll keep it moving.
Where did they rank in the division? Yep, first. This is the best team in the division still.
But I agree with you with the Rams coming right there at second. And then the Seahawks, of course, with Russell Wilson, you can never. And then the young upcoming Cardinals, but I'm not a big fan of the coach there.
That's why. That's the only thing. That's the only I had to talk about that on Grant's show today. He's trying to push this. Oh, you need to be worried about Arizona. I said, well, you bring in the corpse of AJ Green, you bring in the mummy of JJ Watt, you bring in the ghost of Malcolm Butler. This team would have been fire in 2012. Yeah, I don't care. As long as Cliff Kingsbury's the coach.
Yeah.
If you're a 49ers fan, you really want Cliff Kingsbury to sign a lifetime contract. You don't want him to get fired. So you need to start the campaign. Sign Cliff to a lifetime contract, and you will never have to worry about Kyler Murray because God help not only the 49ers, but the league if Kyler Murray gets put in the hands of a competent play caller. That's the best way I could put it.
Yeah, I agree. And Kev says it's time to pick up my pin back up. And as we discussed, shout out to you, bro, and great show, Beto. Hey, Kev, thank you for stopping by, brother. If you ever get the opportunity and are available, not to put you on the spot, but if you ever want to come on my show, you are welcome as well. But I understand you guys are very busy, so I ask for that gracefully. All right, guys. Well, we hit about an hour. Jason Aponte has been really gracious with his time, and I understand he's very generous. But again, I don't want to take advantage of him. I would hopefully want him to come back at a future time. And if I keep him for too long.
Anytime you want, bro. Anytime you want, honestly. Yeah, I mean, the only reason that I'm under a time crunch is because someone else wants me on this show, and I want to show love to everybody. But anytime that you want me back, this was a blast. And again, I'm honored and excited to join anybody who ever wants to have me on to share opinions about this team that we all love.
Yeah, I appreciate that, brother. So everybody, thank you for tuning in. Jason, thank you for being part of my show. I would encourage you guys to follow him and check out his stuff. Follow Kev and his writing as well. I appreciate you guys. Thank you once again, Jason, for coming to the Niner Sickness Report. Small little channel. Appreciate you. Everybody, we'll see you next time, and have a wonderful, blessed night.